You know who this is. You've got 40 minutes with Porky and Julian. How you doing, Julian?
I'm good, Russell. I'm good. It's a late night shift for you and I tonight, mate.
Late night. We've just seen the Conor Ben sinking of the Essex Titanic. Oh my God, Julian, what have we just witnessed?
Well, the fact that we're talking about it now and it's probably bedtime, we've had long days, is because I was going to watch it. And then you said to me, look, I'm not saying I wouldn't have watched it all. I would have caught up with it at some point. You said, have you seen this? Have you actually seen this? Is the worst PR disaster you could ever imagine. So
It's Prince Andrew.
honestly, I switched it on, and I did a video, and it was on your channel, and I remember the video says, "Don't feel sorry for Conor Ben," and I've always held that position that I will not feel sorry for Conor Ben. And tonight, again, I felt myself weakening for that young man, and not for reasons that people might automatically think that there's a witch hunt out there for him and he's been set up. But we'll obviously cover this in more detail. But I'm starting to feel sorry for him for very different reasons.
Oh, Conor Ben.
Just, he looks like a guy, and people say we're haters. So first of all, Russell and I, we've just been chatting offline, mate, haven't we? We're friends, we chat about all sorts. And we both agreed, and people might think we're just anti-Eddie and anti-Conor Ben. Nothing to do with Eddie and this, right? This is Conor Ben. It's in British boxing's best interests that Conor Ben was massively successful, that we had a big star that we could follow, and he was someone who could challenge for world titles and bring some excitement to boxing. It's in boxing's best interest. We talk about boxing being on Skid Row, and this was a great opportunity. I hated the Eubank fight, as you know, but it's not in anyone's best interest, is it, to have like the big stars to be proven drugs cheats? And it's exactly the same thing for Conor Ben. So we're not hating on Conor Ben like people might think. What we're trying to do is to uncover all the rubbish and uncover all the nonsense that's around it and try to get to the truth. And what I saw tonight, Russell, I don't know about you, I saw a man who just feels he needs to unburden himself now. Because sometimes,
I saw that.
Yeah, anyone who says they've never told a lie, who's watching this, we're not being honest with ourselves, are we? We always talk about man in the mirror moment. I'll never apologize for bringing that up all the time. We have a man in the mirror moment. I've done it. I've told lies in the past. I've done things in the past I'm not particularly proud of. But the lie always finds you. And he just looked to me like a young man, certainly towards the end of the interview, who needs to unburden himself. And I think what's happened is he's got so deep in this. He's been so badly advised. This will brush over. We'll don't worry about it. We'll make it go away, and we'll stall in tactics. He's got so deep into this now. He can't actually tell the truth. And he looks like he just needs to unburden himself.
You know, it reminds me of people have been in jail with on remand when they're up for murder and they're telling you they haven't done it.
And
and yet then you see it in paper. They've come clean all day and all that, but they're in denial. And he's got it because there's millions of pounds at stake that they want to get their hands on. Him and his dad. You saw him and his dad squirming on there tonight. It's all about pound notes, isn't it?
Squirming
like worms, weren't they?
Squirming's a really good word. I mean, when Piers, and what you could see with that, and initially I thought, I don't really want to watch this because it might be kind of steered towards trying to feel sorry for Conor Ben, which in some ways I did for reasons I've said, which are slightly different. But when Piers was asking those questions, you could see Piers Morgan wasn't buying this. He was trying to be objective. He knows Nigel well, and he wasn't buying any of this. Neither were Esther Krakau and the other guy whose name I can't remember.
That woman wasn't buying it either, was she?
They just weren't buying it. And it might be my imagination, but there was a point towards the end where I didn't even think Conor Ben was buying it. But for me, when Piers was continually asking the same question, why don't you just put this to bed and publish that 270,000, it could be 270,000 this 270-page report. Why don't you just publish this? And then he starts saying, why should I give it to the Boxing Board of Control? And they've done this and stuff them, and became quite hostile. He was quite passive aggressive. He wasn't overly vocal, but you could see his body language. And then Piers Morgan basically just said, Piers Morgan says, just publish it online. And then he did what I said a few weeks ago. He started saying, well, my lawyers have advised that I just can't quite do that. And it's like, I remember saying ages ago to you, Russell, he's commissioned that report. He said at the beginning of this program with Piers Morgan, he goes, I've paid for the best. So listen, if you've paid for lawyers and solicitors and scientists, you own that information, what they come up with. It's your defense, your facts, you own all of that. You can do what the hell you want with that 270-page document. Absolute nonsense. So it makes me laugh that he's listening to people who's legal people advising him to not provide that 270-page document to the relevant authorities, but the same people, whoever's advising him to go on things like Piers Morgan and some of the tweets he puts out.
From Prince Andrew.
Oh, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, that was the worst ever, wasn't it?
Conor Benn's fish food to Piers Morgan, who he has on. He has Trump on, doesn't he? People
and
like that, he runs rings on him. He's a qualified journalist, isn't he?
He's a very, very bright man, isn't he? He's a smart man, and I've said
He'll
this.
broke that down into well, it were 5 bullet points because I counted them.
Yeah,
that took him all of 2 minutes to put together.
He knew, didn't he? He knew the situation with the WBC. And
he's not going to let Simon Jordan get one up on him, is he?
No. And he said, didn't he? He goes, well, the WBC haven't cleared you, actually. Let's be technically correct about that. And it was less forgiving than I thought it would have been. I thought it would have been a little bit more forgiving, more he did have a humane side to him, as he was talking about. If Conor Benn genuinely has had suicidal thoughts, and I've got no reason to believe that it hasn't had those, then I find that very sad. There's obviously
only about money, though. Let's have it right. Let's talk Turkey. It's about money.
I'm trying to be like,
diplomatic.
I'm trying to be diplomatic, and I'm trying to just, be kind, because no one should feel like that about themselves. No one should. But ultimately, we keep going back to the same point. You got an opportunity to shut this down. You can shut this down with the document, the evidence that you've got, which effectively was rejected by the WBC. You can shut that down, and you can just provide a hair follicle, which will tell us if there is any long-term use of performance-enhancing drugs. But some of the things that he said, I mean, when he's using words like witch hunt, there's a witch hunt, it's like, well, what are you actually saying? And that he's almost, at one point, it looked like he was going to go down the path of the evidence was fabricated, the evidence was planted, and then he kind of went away from that one. Well, I don't know how it got there, and then he's saying there's nothing in his system whatsoever. And it's just like, he's going to sue everybody, isn't he? He's going to sue the British Board of Control.
He's dug an hole all the way to Australia, hasn't
he? It was horrendous. And do you know what? The worst thing about this, from Conor Benn, from a PR point of view, is I thought tonight he might win a little bit of favour over. You've got the generation who was Nigel Benn fans, who's probably tuning into Piers Morgan and thinking, I'll watch this, I'll see a young man who looks quite upset, who looks quite disturbed, and let's watch it. And I think they were hoping to win over a little bit of the public on this one. And it looks like they've just made things worse.
And do you know what they're going to do now? They're going to wheel him out in another 2 weeks, and he's going to bawl his eyeballs out. And they're going to say, you cried wolf, jog on, jogger. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. They've dug that many holes, they can't dig the sense out.
It gets worse, doesn't it? It's like
when Columbo catches them, in car park underground, puts lights on. At the back, you'd have to kill everybody in there to get away from that hole, wouldn't you?
Peter Falk. Honestly, you and I were chatting offline, and we were kind of speechless, aren't we? We're like, whose idea was this? It was bad enough, the fact that he's not really said anything. And now he's come on here. And I don't know anybody who's bought this at all. And you sent me a message as I was watching it, and you just said, I think he's going to come clean. And I'm thinking, he genuinely looks like he wants to just rid
It's
himself.
the only card he's got left now, isn't it?
Well, no one believes it. Nobody believes it. And I think that's the point, is there are less and less people.
Even his old man, who, let's have it right, he's a dummy. His old man were even agreeing with Piers Morgan.
I agree with you. He said, just public, and the document, and he goes, I agree with you. And they're using a defence that they're not going to give this to the British Boxing Board of Control because of something that happened 30 years ago with his dad.
Listen, you've got to look at it like this, right? They took bad advice from that lot down there, just like Ricky Burns and Paul Smith.
Yeah,
when they left Bricktop, and Eddie Hearn said, I had a look at the contracts and all that. Bricktop just filed it, put them in court, Holt wagging round, a low loader, filled it with cash and drove off with Andy Ayling.
And Ricky Burns, three-weight world champion, we're back at Sports Direct, mate.
Yeah, that's it. That's Ricky, freeweight world champion.
Yeah.
Working at Sports Direct. When he were Eddie Hearn, he were pulling up in a GTR Nissan, brand new.
I saw him in that one.
All lot went, didn't it?
I saw him in that GTR, that Nissan. I was chatting to him about it. I had my Subaru at the time, and we went down for sparring, as you know, up for sparring, should I say. But yeah, who advised him? Who advised him there, mate? We know who advised him, don't we? And I think it's probably the same people who's been advising Conor Benn. So you can just imagine, can't you? This, look, come on, this fight's still going to happen. It'll wash away. It'll wash away.
Well, he ended up with Sims, didn't he, Ricky?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Charlie Sims, an advisor like him. Gee God.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? And Conor and Nigel, and we've said this, and I've tried to say this. I don't think I'm anyone. I don't think I'm bright, but they are not that bright, are they? And to go on there and to discuss this with someone like Piers Morgan, it's car crash. It was actually car crash television. And if anybody thinks who watched that, it came across really well, tell us in the comments, because you, myself, and 5 or 6 people have been messaging me tonight non-stop are just saying exactly the same thing, saying it was an absolute disaster. And he didn't, it's a bit like this defence. There's no defence, is there? His defence for this is about as bad as his father's defence was in the ring. There's like literally no defence, and they haven't come up with anything that anybody finds has got any substance. I think the one thing that they're pushing is the fact that there were too many tests done on one of the samples. You know, it got negative, then positive. But we need to look at that. We need to find out.
They're supposed to do the job looking at stuff like that. It's like taking your car to main dealers and I'm not spotting an oil leak. You take it 3 times, you don't find it. You're at home, it's on your drive. You go back, you say, listen, there's oil on my drive. Then they look again. Oh, yeah, you have got an oil leak. It's just like they're doing the job. Isn't that what they're supposed to find?
So what is he suggesting? That someone's injecting chlorophene into that sample? Is that actually what he's suggesting?
Well, he's saying something. Well, their job is to find if he's got performance-enhancing drugs in his urine, which he has done, right? So that's their job. And is he telling them off for doing that? Oh, they tested it 4 times. So is he saying it's got contaminated on 4th time?
Well, he's suing VADA now, isn't he? He's suing VADA. He's suing the British Boxing Board of Control. He's suing VADA. And you watch this space, right? Let this unfold over the next few years. He'll sue the WBC and then he'll sue Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, it'll all end in tears.
They'll all fall out, mate.
He'll cross the street then to Bricktop.
Yeah, they'll all fall out. There's a young man, right? Is effectively lived in his dad's shadow. His dad was a formidable puncher and somebody who, whether you're a Eubank fan or a Watson fan or a Ben fan, somebody who was massively well known by the British public, someone who was held in a lot of affection by the British public. And then you brought up in this massive mansion and very, very wealthy, and you effectively you live in your dad's shadow. So you turn pro, you say, I'll show you that I can fight. And when you turn pro, you're not that good. You're not that great. You get dropped a few times. You scrape a few 4-round wins over fighters with massively losing records. And that must be quite a difficult situation for that young man to be in, to genuinely live in your father's massive shadow. And you wonder, don't you? And you're only speculating now, but it seems to be that real turning point was effectively after the Payne fight, wasn't it? When he was dropped a couple of times and looked pretty fortunate to get away with that one. And it seemed to be a real turning point in his performance.
Yeah, didn't it?
And just we've said it so many times, mate. There were too many red flags, and he's wondering, he's like, this case is attracting so much attention, and I think he's thinking, he's like public enemy number one, and why? And sometimes these things get legs of their own, don't they? They just become absolutely massive.
It's only because Eddie's knee deep in it, and they tried to cover it up. That's not Connor's fault. He's failed the dope test. The rest of it's everybody else is doing, but he's going to carry it burden. He's going to be whipping boy, isn't he?
Well, you think about it, and I'm going to speculate now, and this is purely hypothetical before anybody shoots me down, right? You're an athlete. You are an athlete. Initial CB. Yeah.
Do you want me to click on part 2?
Yeah. Did you send me one, Russell?
I'll send you it now. Yeah.
Send me one, mate. All right, mate.
2 seconds.